There we go. We're recording. So welcome to Painting Through the Pandemic with Shauna Sue. I own Crooked Door Studio in Uptown Marysville, Ohio. Still closed. Still, the building is still physically closed, but because we continue to do this every week, because we continue to hang out virtually every week, and you guys send whatever donations you can. If you can, that's cool. If you don't have the money, that's cool too. But the donations that are being sent, that's enough that helps me pay my rent, that I can then continue to keep the studio space reserved. So when this whole craziness is over, we'll have that space to go back into and play. Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you to all of you that donate to me. I appreciate that, to keep the studio open, to keep the space there. Anyway, okay, I'm going to chat for a little bit. If you haven't joined us before, you know I'm going to chitty chat for a little bit. Now's the time to make sure your canvas is painted black and it's dry. We don't want to start until it's completely dry. The best way to know if it's dry is to pick it up and look at it in the light and see if you have any real bright, shiny spots. Those bright, shiny spots are still wet. Okay, so you guys work on that while I talk. Big deep breath. We get to paint tonight. Life is good. Life is good whenever we get to paint. So before we start, I always like to run through supplies. And as I go through supplies, if I have something that you don't have, don't worry about it. We'll wing it. It'll be fine. The painting that we're doing tonight, the picture that we have, it's just an inspiration. Yours may not look anything like that when we're done. Mine may not look anything like that when we're done because it's not my painting. It's a pretty picture we found and we're like, let's mimic that. Let's see if we can use those techniques and learn something new tonight. Okay, so I'm going to try to keep it very similar to that, but it's okay if it's different, right? We're going to do what makes us happy tonight. It's what painting's all about. Okay, first things first in our supplies. Before I go that route, let me say I am recording this tonight. So if you start to feel stressed out, it's not going the way you think it should go, you feel like you need to take a break, do that. You can come back to the recording later, okay? Don't get stressed out about it. It's not worth it, right? Art should be relaxing and fun. Supplies, paint shirt and or apron. The paint that we're using, if you got paint from the studio, the paint that you're using is student grade acrylic paint. Sorry, I was just checking out the chat box. I should probably mention that. I have the chat feature open on a laptop. So if you have any questions, pop them in the chat box. So the paint that we're using is student grade acrylic paint. If you get it on your clothing and it dries, it's a real bear to get out, okay? Since we're all painting at home, we have to be careful and see, take a look at what's around you and see if you need to put anything away. If you have a really nice shirt on, go get a paint shirt or an apron, or if you're someplace where you don't have access to a paint shirt, run to the bathroom real quick and flip your shirt inside out. It's better to get paint on the inside if it's a nice shirt, right? Then you won't see it when you flip it back around. Okay, so look around too, because there's going to come a point that we might do a little bit of speckling with stars with a toothbrush if you have one. And it's really easy for those speckles to fly everywhere. Okay, so with that said, take a good look around. Make sure there's nothing super nice around you. Okay, canvas. The canvas that I have is a 16 by 20. And again, the lighting is weird because it's a black canvas and my camera is auto adjusting for that. So it's going to continue to be light and dark a little bit. 16 by 20 stretched canvas is what I'm working on. Our inspiration painting that we have appears to be a square. So you get to decide, are you going to use your canvas? Are you going to set it vertically or are you going to set it horizontally? That's up to you. Think about where you're going to put this when you're done. If you have a spot like on a bookcase that will accommodate a nice landscape size painting, well, then that's what you do, right? I think it works well either way. I think I have decided to go landscape tonight. I'm going to go sideways tonight instead of vertical. That's just my preference. It's not right or wrong. It's just my preference. So I have prepped my canvas. I have it painted all the way around black. I even took the time and painted my edges black. Looks nice when you do that because then your painting is wrapped all the way around. Now, I would normally remind you as we paint things on there, if you get out close to the edge, to wrap it around. So if we get blue out here, to wrap it around the edge. With a black canvas, you don't necessarily have to do that. It's up to you. You can if you want, but you don't have to, okay? Because it's already black, it already looks finished. So we have canvas. I have my inspiration picture. Let's talk about brushes. You need some kind of a big brush. Yours might look like this, right? It's skinny this way. It might be rounded like a filbert, right? Just some kind of a big brush. We're going to work a lot of our background with this big brush. You're going to need some kind of a medium brush. I'm using a medium filbert just because he's what I like. I'm going to use him for the mountains, I think. Yeah, mountains. And then a pointy brush. He doesn't look really pointy, but when I get him in the water, he'll point up nicely. So some kind of a pointy brush. I'm going to take those three, my big, my medium, and my pointy, and pop them in my water cup. So you should have a water cup about halfway full. Ooh, that was close. About halfway full with cool or cold water, never warm or hot, right? It should always be cool or cold. Okay. And I'm going to leave those brushes in there. You see, I still have my fan brush in my hand. I'm going to leave these brushes in here. That's a good reminder that when I'm done with the brush, it goes back in there with his friends. Okay. I have a fan brush. If you don't have a fan brush, don't worry. We can do the trees without a fan brush. But if you do have a fan brush, take him and lay him to the side. I shouldn't say never. For what we're doing tonight, we will not start with him wet. We'll start with him dry. Fan brushes have a tendency, when you keep them in the water too long, the bristles, especially these coarse ones, the bristles get really soft and then they chunk and they turn into fingers. They don't stay nice and fanned out. For what we're doing, we want him to stay nice and fanned out and dry. So if you have a fan brush, lay him to the side. I have some paper towels. I have a little stack of paper towels underneath my water cup that I can dry my brushes off on. And then optional things you might have. I have this little brush. I don't know why, but I have a love affair with this little brush lately. It's just, he's really thin. The bristles are really short. I just like him. You may not have one, and that's okay. But this is to tell you that you don't have to use all the same brushes I use. If you have another brush that you really like, use him, right? I think I like this guy more than I like the pointy brush most of the time. So anyway, I have him there. I'm gonna put him in my water cup so he'll be ready. Toothbrush. Toothbrush is nice we're gonna use this for stars. If you don't have a toothbrush, don't worry. A lot of people don't like to use a toothbrush if they're inside anyway, because you could flick and splatter and make a heck of a mess. But I have it just in case. I'll lay that to the side. Paint pen. You've heard me say it a million times, right? I am really bad at signing my painting with a brush. So I keep a paint pen to sign my painting with. Something you may or may not have, just something I like to keep. And I mentioned it a little bit ago before we got started. I have an extra plate and some scissors. If you don't have this, that's okay. I'm gonna play a little bit. I'm gonna show you, if you have a palette knife, you can get that out tonight. If you don't have a palette knife, you can use a plate and scissors. If you don't have either one of those things, you can use an old credit card. You can use an old piece of junk mail that's like cardstock, that's nice and stiff. If you don't have those things, don't worry. That's not make or break. But I'm gonna show you some fun stuff with it. Okay. I think, paint. Almost forgot the most important part of a painting class is the paint. So I don't have a lot of paint out tonight. If you got paint from the studio, you're going to put out just little bits. It's not going to take a lot of paint tonight. The most paint it'll take is black and white. Okay, so let's go through my colors. I have blockout white, bright red, phthalo blue, phthalo green, and then Mars black. Now, all of these colors are negotiable except the bright red. You need to make sure that if you didn't get paint from the studio, if you're using your own paint, make sure you have a red that leans more blue than it does orange. That sounds weird, but let me tell you why. There are some reds out there that have a really orange undertone to them. Fire red is one example. If you try to mix a red that has an orange undertone to it with blue, orange and blue are opposites on the color wheel. They're complementary colors. If you mix those together, you'll get poop. You won't get purple, you'll get poop. If you're not sure the red that you have, you might pull together and do a little bit of mixing to see if you can get a good purple before you put it on your canvas, right? Pull just little bits together right there and swirl them together. Add a little bit of white and swirl it in to make sure you're getting a purple color and not a poop color. If you are getting a poop color, you need to change your plans. Where we use, where I'm going to use purple, you'll just use pink. You'll just use red and white. Okay. Okay. I say we go ahead and get started. So I always like to show you the direction we're going to go so you know the direction I'm heading, right? I don't want to lead you blind here. So I think the way we're going to attack this painting, we're going to put our horizon line in there. And my horizon line is going to be, I don't know, maybe a third up from the bottom-ish, just a general guideline. What I wouldn't do is put the horizon line exactly halfway across your canvas. You never want to split a canvas in half. I like to think in thirds. So we'll put our horizon line on there. And then I think we'll go up and we'll put some background color in the sky. We'll put some purple. If you can't make purple, you'll use pink. We'll put some purple up there, and then we'll put some blue up there, ignoring those lines, right? We're just putting some of that background color in. We'll put some color down here at the bottom. There's a little bit of water, and the water will be a reflection of the sky, right? And then I think we'll probably put some stars on, and then maybe mountains. We'll put our light marks in the sky, our northern light-ish marks, some trees. That's kind of about how we're going to go about this. Okay, we'll see what happens, but that's the general idea. Okay, let's get started. That's enough chatting. Let's start with our big brush. If you got new brushes from the studio, squish those around in the water cup. I just looked over the clock and realized it's 7:15. I am nothing if not consistent. First 15 minutes of every class, I just talk. Okay, so biggest brush. If you got new brushes from the studio, you want to squish those around in there. Brushes, when they ship out, they have a starch on them that keeps them nice and stiff, and you want to get that out of there, right? You want to soften that brush up. If you have older brushes, I like to do that same thing because my brushes might be a little stiff. They might have dried paint left in them. So I like to soften them up a little. All right, dry that off. And I say, let's start with our horizon line. Excuse me. And I'm going to mix a little bit of purple for my horizon. I'm going to start with a little bit of blue, tiny, just little bits of paint, and a little bit of red. A little bit of blue, a little bit of red. And I might be tempted to say that looks a little poo, but if I go right there in the edge of my white and grab a little bit of white, ooh, that brightens it right up. That's a really pretty purple. So a little blue, a little red, a little bit of white. And let's start by putting our horizon line on there. So again, my canvas is dry. I checked it to make sure it's dry. And we don't want to split our canvas in half, right? So I'm going to go about a third. And put my horizon line on there with that purple. See, I'm using my brush skinny ways to draw a line, using it skinny ways there. Oh, that purple's pretty. And this is the part where I remind everyone to breathe, right? Exhale. It's going to be what it's going to be tonight, right? Don't try to control it. So now, with that purple on my brush, my bright spot in my sky is back here, kind of behind my trees. So I'm going to take, with that purple on my brush, a little more white. And I'm going to start here at my horizon line. And I'm going to work my way up. I'm not using much paint at all. Look how dry that is, right? I'm going to work with my bright spot right here behind where my trees are going to go. And I'm just going, it's like a real flat infinity motion without the curves at the end. Right there. And then I'm going to go up with just blue and red. I want to get a little darker as I go up. I want to keep my brightest spot right there at the horizon line. Now I know the less white I use, the more transparent my paint is going to be, and the more it's going to blend in on the black. Let me say that again. The less white I use, the more transparent my paint is going to be. And that's going to make it a lot easier on that, to work on that black, to have it disappear. And that's our goal, is to come up a little bit and have it disappear. Disappear into the black. I have so little paint on my brush, you can hear it scratching on the canvas. So again, right here at the horizon, red, blue, and white. And then as you go up, just red and blue. And you'll have this purple sheen under there, but it won't be real bright. I might want a little tiny bit of white over here. I want some color in here, and I'm reminding myself as I do this, about 2 fingers high across my horizon, that's going to be mountains. So if I have these lovely bright spots here right at the horizon, I'm not going to see much of them because they're going to be covered with mountains. So what if I take that bright spot up just a little? I'm going about a hand width across above my horizon. Just a rough idea. Taking little bits of red, little bits of blue. Okay. Ooh, that's pretty. I might put a little more up here. I love this bright spot. I might work that bright spot up just a little. So blue, red. Again, as you do this, remind yourself, this is your painting, right? It's not going to look like mine. It's going to look like your version of this painting. Oh, yeah. That's pretty. And again, tiny bits of paint right now. Okay. So I have my purple on there. I'm trying to decide if I want to put a little more purple up here. I think I do. Little blue, little red, tiny, 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 tiny bit of white. Like tiny. Like I'm just barely creeping the corner of my brush in there. And I like the idea of having a little bit of purple here behind where those trees are going to go. There we go. At this point, everything I'm doing is so subtle, right? So subtle. A little blue, a little red, tiny white, and get some purple up here. Okay, feel pretty good about that. Now, whatever is in the sky is reflected in the water. We're just going to see the water, I don't know, 2, maybe 3-ish fingers across the bottom, because a lot of this is going to be snow and the trees. So we're just going to see the water down here at the bottom. So I'm going to raise my canvas up a little. Same color I've been using. Little blue, little red, tiny bit of white. And I'm going to set that brush flat ways and, and pull down, straight down. Blue, red, little white, and straight down. Ooh, that's pretty. How streaky that is. That's pretty. Straight down. It's okay if you get a little more blue in places, a little more red in places. And I'm going across the bottom, I don't know, about 3, 4-ish fingers, knowing that this top part, I'm going to camouflage it later with white. Okay. But the important part is pull straight down. You need those. I guess you could pull up if you wanted, right? You don't have to pull down. You could pull up. Ooh, that's fun. That's practice for the sky. That's what we're going to do in the sky. Let me show you that real quick. We're not there yet, but this is a cool place to practice it. Little blue, little red, little white. When we get up into the sky, I'm going to take my big brush that's nice and skinny, and I'm going to set it down and pull up and let go. Pull up and let go. Isn't that pretty? So get ready for that. That's going to be fun when we get up to the sky. Right now for water. Right across the bottom there. So all the way across the bottom. And again, in some places it's a little more blue, some places it's a little more red. If you're going for more realistic, you would have, if you have this real light, pretty purple right here, your water would be that light, pretty purple down there. So I might add a little more white directly below there. There we go. Don't mind me, I'm still playing in the sky. Okay. Oh, Riley, should you paint the bottom of your canvas black? I think black is fine. As long as the black wraps all the way around, I wouldn't worry about putting color on the bottom. You can if you want, but I think as long as you have black all the way around, you're fine. Got a booger there. Okay. So now I'm gonna do one more thing, and then we'll take a little pause, let everybody get to the same spot. We put this random purple up here. I want to do the same thing with just blue and a tiny, 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 tiny bit of white. I think right across here. Again, I'm not trying to get rid of the black. I'm just trying to add a little more interest in that background. So when your water is done, take that brush. I'm not even going to clean it out because I'm okay if there's a little purple left in it. Blue, mostly blue. And again, tiny bits of paint. And the teeny, teeny, teeniest bit of white. Like super duper tiny. Like almost don't touch the white at all. And I want to get some blue right across, I think right across the sky. Again, tiny bits of paint, blue, tiny, tiny, tiny bit of white. Because we want it to be pretty transparent. And the more white you add, the less transparent it's going to be. And then once you have that blue on there, let's rinse that brush out. And we'll take a good, what do you think, 10-minute break? We'll take a good 10-minute break to get everybody to the same spot. So it's 7:30, how about 7:40? At 20 till, we'll be ready to move on. We'll put some stars up there next. We'll come down and we'll work on this ground a little. We'll put some mountains in. Yeah, so 10 minutes. So at 7:40, we'll move on. Remember, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat box. 7:40, we'll move on. You're going to need a little bit of clean white for the next step. Clean water and a splatter brush. A toothbrush, or you can use a big brush if you don't have a toothbrush. I think I'm going to work a little more blue across here. You know, I just saw your comment. Can I readjust it so you can see it without the glare? That's the hard part because it's a black canvas. That should be better. There we go. The further we go, it'll be easier to see what I'm doing the further we go. But right now it's really hard to see because it's mostly transparent paint on a black background. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop there. Okay, so again, we have about 8 minutes before we move on. We'll move on at 20 till. Toothbrush, if you have one. You can use, if you don't have a toothbrush, you can use, maybe not your big brush, but your medium brush. And you can do this, right? And knock the speckles on your canvas. So if you don't have a toothbrush, don't worry. But when we move on in about 8 minutes, you need a splatter brush, which I'm going to use a toothbrush, clean white, and clean water. So I'm going to go ahead and clean all that dark paint out of that water and go get clean. Who just know, Jenny? You like my TV trays? Like those? Right? Say them back there. I know you usually don't see my living room because it's dark over there. But because my camera keeps readjusting, there we go. If I stand a certain way, it blocks the glare. There it is without the glare. Oh, that was Jake. So Jake and I have the same TV trays. Jake, I live in a tiny home. Our house is about 400 and it's not technically a tiny home because it's more than 400 square foot, but it's the size of a 2-stall garage. So we live in a essentially a tiny home. So there is no room for a table in here. There's no room for a kitchen table in my kitchen. There is no dining room. It doesn't exist. That's my living. I'm in the kitchen right now, and that's my living room right there. So we live on TV trays. When we sit down for a fancy dinner, we have TV trays. Oh, shoot. Okay, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Clean white, clean water, and a splatter brush. So I'm going to go get clean water. Okay, so Jenny / Jake, the question is, which TV trays are we talking about? The freestanding ones or the trays? Because I have both over there. Is it like the whole kit, the whole like set thing? You have to let me know now. So truth be told, my husband uses the ones that are the freestanding ones, the ones you flop out, right? And they have legs. The standing ones. Yeah, let me, those are his. These are mine. And those have been an absolute godsend in working from home. Oh man, oh honey, I missed you too. How's your knee? You'll have to let me know how your knee is doing. I'm hoping better. Fancy ones. Oh, you're mending. Well, that's good you're on the mend. Oh, so while I have you all here and we're chatting and talking about things, life, right? We have 2 minutes before we move on. No class next Saturday. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and then we'll be ready to go for our first of the year, January 2nd. So I figure people will be, I don't know what I figure people will be. Hopefully not traveling, hopefully staying home and staying safe, but doing family stuff regardless. So no class next Saturday. We'll pick back up that first Saturday in January. I know, Mano, I don't know what I'm going to do, right? It'll get around to next Saturday and I'll be like, oh, wish I had paint class. But my counselor says it's time to take some time off. So I'm going to take some time off. Oh, I'll find something. Don't you worry. I taught myself how to Tunisian knit. Did I tell you that? I shouldn't say taught myself. I had one of my yas help me figure it out. But I made bowl holders. One more minute and we'll move on. I made bowl holders. So when we get stuff out of the microwave, like a bowl of soup, I did Tunisian knitted bowl holders. Sounds way fancier than it is. But there's always a challenge, right? We got to learn new stuff all the time. Oh, Tracy, stand by. It's a mix between knit and crochet. You use, I think they're called Afghan hooks. So it's a knitting needle, but it has a crochet hook on the end. Interesting. And you just use one. So it gives you, it's like a really cool waffle pattern. But anyway, it's really tight knit. It's nice for, I made these in cotton. So they're really nice to hold. I know, right? They're really nice to, like if you're getting a hot bowl out of the microwave. Okay, it's 7:40. Let's move on. No, Mano, no. That's why I had that talk with my counselor. She said, Shauna Sue, take a little break. And I said, fine. Okay, that woman, my counselor, she has her work cut out for her. Okay, so let's see. Let's do stars next because we're going to want to give those a little time to dry so we don't drag through them when we put those pretty lines in the sky. Okay. Something to think about too. I picked this painting because the convergence, I think that's what it's called, convergence of Saturn and Jupiter on Monday, they're going to create like the Christmas star. So I thought this painting would be really pretty to put the Christmas star. Tuck that in the back of your brain as we're working on this. Not going to do that now. If we do that, we'll do that at the very end. Okay. So I want to cover this whole top with stars, I think. I'm going to I have an extra plate here for shielding, right? So be careful if you're going to splatter. Be careful where you're at because it's really hard to control, right? So I figure if I stay close, I have my canvas sitting very vertical. If I stay nice and close, I should be able to control it. I'm gonna take my toothbrush. If you don't have a toothbrush, stand by, I'll show you how to do it without a toothbrush. So anytime I swap out my toothbrush in the bathroom, I always throw my old one in my paint supplies because they always come in handy. So I'm gonna go in my clean water with my toothbrush and I'm gonna go tap, tap, tap. So I have a little bit of water in there, but not a lot. I'm gonna go to my clean white paint. I'm gonna take a big old chunk of it, a big old chunk, and come over here to a clean spot on my plate and scrub, scrub, scrub. It's really hard to see, but I'm using that little bit of water in my toothbrush to thin that paint down a little bit. Now, if you don't have a toothbrush, if you're using a regular brush, use one of your medium brushes and do the same thing. You want to get it about the consistency of ink. If you have, if your paint is too thick, it won't come off your brush for stars. Okay. There we go. I have, be careful we don't drip, right? I have my, my paint on there, my thinned down paint. I have my toothbrush bristles up. And I'm going to pull, if I pull my finger toward me, if I pull my finger back and I let go, the bristles will, and the paint will fly back that way that I'm pointing. Okay. So now I'm going to shield it. Oh, that's pretty. So I'm getting stars all over that sky. Okay. Now, if you don't have a toothbrush, I'm going to take my medium brush. Again, thinning my paint down. So my medium brush and just another random brush. Oops, a little more water. Thin it down a little bit. All right, I've got some thin white paint on this medium brush. And then you can hit your medium brush on a firm surface. Oops, got a drip. If that happens, no worries. Okay. So there's more than one way to go about it. So I'll give you a few minutes. Get your stars on there. Oh, that's fun. That's pretty. Now I'm looking the, oh, there we go. If I hold my hand right there, you can kind of see what it looks like for real, right? Still really dark. Then when you're done, I just toss whatever brushes you're using back in your water cup. And the paint will wash off your body, okay? I know I make such a big deal about not getting paint on anything, and then I'm like, let's get it all over ourselves. It'll wash off your skin with warm soapy water. Acrylic paint, when it dries, it essentially turns to plastic. So you could almost peel it off of your fingers later. Ooh, that's a good look at what I really have there without the glare. But because it turns to plastic, once it gets in the fiber of your clothing, it's real hard to get out. Little painter's trick, Murphy's oil soap. Murphy's oil soap is your best friend for cleaning up acrylic paint. Okay, take another couple minutes. And then I think we're going to get ready and put mountains on next. Ooh, I'm loving the way this is turning out. I'm thinking about putting my my North Star up here. I think that would offset it nicely because I'll have the tall trees. I'll have 3 trees. I'll have one here and then shorter and then shorter. And I think if I put my Christmas star up here, I think that would balance it out nicely. I'm afraid if I put my Christmas star over there on where my trees are, my painting's going to feel too heavy on the right side. Okay, let's put mountains on there. So the mountains go, I don't know, halfway across, maybe a little better than halfway, right? They look like they disappear behind those trees, and they're really small off in the distance. I hesitate to say mistakes because there are no mistakes, right? So I hesitate to say mistakes, but some of the things I see people do when it comes to mountains, they'll make bumps. So it looks like they have a row of humps, or they'll make their mountains really tall and skinny. And it looks like, I don't know, the fires of Mordor, I'm not really sure, but those real tall, skinny mountains. And these aren't, we think, I don't even know how to describe them, but they're very short. They're maybe 2 fingers high at the highest. Okay. And they set right on the horizon line. And I think I'm going to use red and blue and a tiny bit of black. Find a medium brush, whichever medium brush makes you happy. Okay, here we go. So I'm using this medium filbert because I like him, right? He's flat this way, but he's rounded this way. Yours might be flat, and that's fine. And I'm going to set my mountains right on my horizon. And I'm going to go, I don't know, about halfway, maybe a little further. I'm going to mix some red and some blue. And the tiny, tiny, tiniest bit of black. My black's making a run for it across the palette. Tiny, tiny bit of black, not much. And again, they're 2 fingers high at the highest. So let's see, there's one. Oh, nice. And let's be sure and make them different sizes. You don't want them to look all very uniform across there. Maybe this one's shorter. I'm not worried about the snow on them right now. We'll put the snow on later. So again, red and blue and a tiny bit of black. See this guy, he's a little taller. And no matter what they look like on the top, they're pretty flat on the bottom, right? They're sitting on that horizon line. Red, blue, tiny bit of black. Maybe one more here. There we go. I know all my talk about not making them uniform, and mine are pretty, they're pretty uniform, aren't they? Maybe I need another little peek right in here. Despite our best efforts, sometimes OCD kicks in. Ooh, that one got a little more red in it. That's pretty. go. And from there, I'm gonna stop, right? I just have the basics of my mountains on there. I'll put snow on them in a little bit, but I'm gonna leave them alone for now. So once you have your mountains on there, just the dark shape of them, rinse that brush out, pop that in your water cup. And I think I'm going to go back to my big brush and put my white ground in here next. Okay. All right, big brush. Big brush, cleaned out, dried off. With just white, let's put our ground in here. Now, our ground, don't go all the way down. You want to leave some of your water show. So I'm going to start with white on my big brush, right under my mountains. And I'm going side to side. Nice, sweeping, side to side brush strokes. So come down. Everything you do here with your ground stays side to side. And do you see I'm using my brush skinny ways? So I'm putting that white on first, and then I might take a little bit of purple. We'll talk about that in a minute, right here under my mountains. But let's use white first, because once we dirty up the white, it's hard to get back to clean white again, okay? So just white right now. Everything down here is side to side, parallel to the bottom. And I know, or I feel like I might need another coat of paint. Let me get close so you can see what I've got here. Let me get a different, there we go. You can see all my brush strokes. That's okay. It looks bright white because of the lighting, because that dark canvas, because my lighting is trying to compensate. But if I get to where we don't have a glare here, well, there we go. You can see all those brush strokes in that white paint. That's okay. We're okay with that. Okay. We just know we might have to go back and give it another coat of paint. Okay. So now with the tiniest bit of purple, I have white on my brush, tiny, tiny bit of purple. Like I'm playing in some of this that might already be dry. The tiniest bit, that's too much. Tiniest bit of purple. Where the mountains meet that white brown, what if we put just a little bit of purple back in there? What if we blend a little bit of purple? That's really pretty. It's so subtle. Makes it a little more interesting. Right there, underneath the mountains. Just shushing in a little bit of purple. I'm going to go just a tiny, tiny bit darker. Right there underneath the mountains. Tiny bit darker right under those mountains. Oh, that's pretty. Remember, this is your version of, right? Whatever happens is okay. So pretty. So I have my white ground. I have a little bit of purple there right under my mountains, just a little bit swished in there. Block the light a little. My camera doesn't even know how to compensate for what we're doing. There we go. You can see the little bit of purple underneath my mountains. But you can also see, oops, you can also see this is still very transparent down here. So I'm going to clean my brush out and get some clean white, put a little more white back on there. Clean that purple out. Put a little more white. Ooh, that second coat of white is pretty. It's nice and bright. Okay, that looks good. While we're down here in the water, I want to play just a little bit. This is where the plate and scissors comes in. If you don't have this, don't worry about it. This is not make or break. But I'm going to take this plate and cut a couple, I don't know, maybe a square. There we go. About an inch, inch and a half, something like that. This is where you can use a palette knife if you have it, but I know not everybody has a palette knife. So I'm going to use this to paint with. I want to use this to get some marks in my water. Some not quite ripples, but like little, yeah, I guess little tiny, tiny ripples in the water. We want it to be pretty smooth, but every now and then the water's going to break just a little bit. So I'm going to use this little piece of cardstock, this little piece of plate, and everything I do is going to stay parallel to the bottom. Let me show you what I mean. So I have this, I'm just going to drag it straight through my white, clean white. Hold it perpendicular to your canvas and side to side. Do that again. Get a little more paint. You can use this where the land meets the water. Side to side. It's one of those, it gives the water just little breaks, right? And the trick is not to press, don't press so hard that you're bending it. You're keeping it nice and stiff and perpendicular to the canvas. You're going straight in, and it's side to side. Again, this is not something you have to do, but it's fun. I like to show you what I know, right? It's just something a little different. And I think it adds a little interest to the water. It's a little more interesting. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Let's go ahead and let's put our lines in the sky. So when we put the lines in the sky, you want to give yourself a guideline, and then you want to use the color that's already there in the background. Remember, the less white you use, the more transparent and forgiving it's going to be. You can use this little piece of cardstock that we just used. You can use the brush. Remember, we talked about it down in the water. I'm just going to practice with this little piece of cardstock here. What if I put some blue on it and I set it down and I pull up? Not sure. Not sure. I think I might, ooh, that's pretty. I might like the brush better. Yeah, I think I liked what I was getting with the brush better. But art is all about experimentation, right? So we got to try different things and see what makes us happy. So here's what I'm going to do. There are three guidelines. That's two separate words. Three separate words. Anyway, guidelines, two separate words. Guidelines, guiding lines. So one here that kind of gently swirls down, one here that goes across, and one here that goes really low. So I'm going to use my small brush. And this is where I'm going to use, you can use a pointy brush, or you can use a, I have this brush that I talked about him earlier. I don't know why, but I love him, right? His bristles are really, really short, but he's really skinny this way. He has a lovely chisel. So you can use your pointy brush, or you can use a little chisel brush like this. So I'm going to start with this line up here. I'm going to give myself a guideline. So let's see, I think blue and white, because that's what's here. It'll get a little purpley down there. But let's start with blue and a tiny, tiny bit of white. And let's see, here we go. Just gonna draw a little bit of a guide here, a guideline. Okay, now watch what we're gonna do. Got my guideline there. And this is where you decide, is it that cardboard? Is it the big brush? Is it a fan brush? Totally up to you. But we're gonna take mostly blue, tiny bit of white, and you're gonna set this brush right on that line, and all of your brush strokes pull up away from that line. I'm going to set it right on there and pull up and let go. Up and let go, up and let go. Up and let go. Remember, the more blue you use, the more forgiving it's going to be. The more white you use, the more it's going to really stand out. So now as you do this, it's going to be a little more blue in places, a little darker in others, a little brighter, a little darker. Picking up the color that's back there already. So this was all blue, so that's what I'm using. As I get down here, I'm going to start to pick up some purple because that's what's back there. And you pull straight up. Set your brush right on that line and pull straight up. And this is another one of those, I'm not using much paint at all. Not very much. Some of these are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter. Everybody breathe. As I get down in here, I'm going to start to add a little bit of purple. Again, remember, the less white you use, the more forgiving it is. This is one of those things, as you start to feel more bold, you start to add a little more white. But if you add too much white too fast, it all feels way too shocking. So when you get this one done, we'll go ahead and do the next one. And you can decide, do you need to put that guideline on there first? Or can you just wing it and go without a guideline? I might try that next. It's always good to have guidelines, but I'm a risk taker. Let's see. Do my next one with no guidelines. Here we go. Start right here. Ooh, I'm liking it without the guideline. Ooh, I want a little bright spot. Okay. Ooh, well, that's fun. Oh, yes. I'm so excited to see how you guys do on this. I'm loving this. Oh, and my movie stopped, so I need to go. I need to go restart my movie. It's too quiet in here without my movie. I hope you've got your music on. You're watching Christmas movies, whatever makes your heart happy tonight. Let's see, again, with this guideline, as I get over here, I have purple in the background. So that's what I'm going to start to pick up, a little bit of purple. Oop, straight. I think it's the hardest is to keep my lines going straight up and down. As my brush starts to go downhill, I want to pull the direction my brush is going, but that's not right. You need to keep them straight up and down. Okay, so as we continue to work on this, how about let's go another good 10 minutes and then we'll check in and see where we're at. So 8:13, what, 8:23. I'll check in with everyone. And at that point, we'll see if we need another 5 minutes. But remember, there are three lines across here. So I'm getting number 2 on. Then you can go back and put a couple bright spots in. Okay, let's get number 3. Okay. Oh, that's pretty. So again, 8:23. We'll check in, see how we're doing. I just keep going back and adding little bits of color here and there along those lines. Being sure not to completely lose my background sky. Go back and put a couple little bright spots in every now and then. Let's see, where do I need a bright spot? Oh, that's fun. It's funny too, I keep stepping back and looking at it every now and then and seeing how I feel about it. I don't know how I feel about this over here. Not worried about it because that's where my tree's going to go. Right? I'm going to have my big tree right there, my medium tree, and then my little tree. Oh, that's pretty. Okay, I'm to the point I need to stop touching it. I think I might come down here and put just a little more clean white down in my land. Just because that'll keep me from messing in the sky too much more. Okay. So again, 8:23, we'll check in. And at that point, I think we'll be ready to put some snow on our mountains here. I think we'll do our trees first, dark. Then while those are drying, we'll put some snow on our mountains. And then we'll go back and put snow on our trees. I think that's how we're going to finish out here. Okay. Oh, I love looking over, seeing everybody paint. Oh, wait, any suggestions on? Okay, took out the northern lights because we didn't care for the northern lights. That's okay. I wonder if you go back in the very beginning where we put that blue without white in the background. We put that base of blue back there. I'd probably just work some blue back in there. And are you gonna put a northern star over there, right? The conjunction of stars, the Jupiter, Saturn, that would be a really nice thing to put over in the left. Yeah, that'll balance off your trees on the right then. Okay. Okay, about 3 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. There we go. So about 3 minutes or so, and we'll be ready to move on. I keep wanting to go up and play in those up in my lights in the sky. I feel like that's one of those things we could just keep playing in, right? I'm gonna go in with a smaller brush and see how I feel about that. Ooh, the smaller brush is fun. I said I wasn't going to touch that anymore, didn't I? And there I go, touching it again. So brush back in the cup. So 2 more minutes, and I think we'll move on to trees. If you have a fan brush, the time has come. If you don't have a fan brush, you'll want to use your big brush. Okay. So about 2 minutes, and we'll put trees on there. Oh, I love these trees. I love them. They're going to be good. They're huge. Okay. So 2 more minutes. Okay. I think we're getting ready for trees. One more minute. Oh, 8:23. There it is. Okay. Here we go. Trees. So let's talk about the trees. There's one that's really tall on the left, on the right. My bad. On the right, he's really tall. He comes about 4-ish fingers from the top. It's really tall. And he comes down into the ground about an inch or so. Okay. And then the next one is shorter, but he still comes down into the ground. And then the third one is even shorter, down to the ground. Now I'm going to do the first one with a fan brush, and then I'll do the second one with my big fat brush. So if you got paint from the studio, you got black and green, just because I wasn't sure. I don't know if I'm going to do mine just in black, if I'm going to mix 50-50 black and green. I still haven't decided. I gave you green because trees are green, but if you look over at the right-hand edge of the original picture, they look a little green. So that's up to you. I think I might mix mine. Here we go. Okay, so find your small brush. We always start with our pointy brush, regardless fan brush or not. We always have to put that backbone in. So find your pointy brush, and he's pretty tall and comes down into the ground a little bit. So I have that flat brush that I love. You might be using your pointy brush. I'm going to mix some green and some black. I'm going to start up here, and it's going to be hard to see because it's a dark color on a dark color. Start up here and go down into my snow. Okay. So now you can decide if you want to do, I think I'm going to do all three of, oh, there, we can see it. I'm going to do all three of my backbones first, I think. All three of my trunks first. So green and black, let's see. This one, he's, I think, halfway between my first tree and my mountains, maybe-ish, maybe a little further to the right. I guess that's assuming you're doing 3 trees, right? You might decide to do more. You might decide to stop at 1. That's up to you. And then my third one is even shorter. They're very stair-stepped. Okay. So there we go. Oh, not even straight. I have a habit of going a little crooked. It's okay. They don't have to be straight in nature, do they? Okay, so I'm going to do the first one with my fan brush. I'm using black and green. And for mine, I'm going to add a little bit of white to make it easier for you to see what I'm doing. I don't want you to add white. I'm going to add a little so you can see. Okay. So now anytime we do a tree like this, an evergreen tree, you have to leave that top point. That's where you put the star on the Christmas tree, right? So you don't start at the tippy top. You have to come down a little bit. So I have I'm going to do the first one with fan brush. I have my fan brush loaded up with green and black. Let me show you the top of the tree. There he is. Okay, there's the top. So now I have to come down just a little bit. There we go. Down just a little and give a tiny little tap. I'm going to come down a little further and give a heavier little tap. By the time I get to 3 and 4, I'm going to start tippy tapping back and forth. Again, I want you to do yours in the dark colors. I added white so you could see what I'm doing. Okay. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. All the way down. Keep tapping. All the way. Oh, I need some more paint. Okay. Here we go. Tree. Okay. If you don't have a fan brush, find your big brush, your biggest brush. We're going to use it like a fan brush. So you want to clean it out and dry it off. And I'm shaping mine. I'm just shaping it nice and flat. And we're going to use it like a fan brush. So we're going to use it this way. The trick with this is don't press so hard that you're bending the bristles. Okay. So again, I'm going to use green and black and a little bit of white so you can see what I'm doing. But I just want you to use green and black. Use your dark colors, green or black or both. But I'm adding a little white to make it easier for you to see. Leave that top. That's where you put the star on the Christmas tree. And I'm going to come down a little bit and give a little, just the tiniest little tap. Come down a little further and a little tap. And then I'm tap, tap, tapping back and forth. Your brush is a little smaller than a fan brush, so you might have to tap a lot more. Tap, 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 tap. When I'm tapping back and forth and I get to the point that I can see that center, I need more paint. Okay. Again, not pressing hard enough that you're bending those bristles. Whew. All right, tree number 2. I almost like the look of that better than with the fan brush. Is that weird? That's weird. Okay, so let's keep working. Let's get all 3 of those trees on there. Oh, those are fun. Those are super fun. Oh, Marissa, I just saw that you joined us. I see you. Well done. You made it. I saw your message come across and I was like, no, but we're recording it. So you can go back later if you need. I have you muted. Yeah, I have everybody muted. Might be a control freak like that. You know, you do one kids class and give them the ability to unmute, and then that's it. You don't do that again. Okay. Once you get your trees on there, and you might still be working on your trees, that's okay. But my trees are kind of floating a little bit. So while I still have that color on that brush, I want to add some white to it. I want to do just a tiny, tiny bit of shading underneath those trees. So with that color on there, I'll wipe some of it off. I'm going to take some white. And I want to do just a little bit, just a little bit of, I want to go a little darker than that. Right underneath those trees. I'm just tap, tap, tapping just a little bit with that dark color. Okay, let me rephrase that. With that color of my trees on my brush, I'm adding white to it. So I'm dirtying up the snow underneath those trees. That's a better way to say it. And that, if I give them little shadows, that will help set them down a little bit so they don't look like they're floating. So again, that same tree color you've been using, add some white to it. And I want to get just a little bit right under them. Now I'm going to camouflage that with snow when I put snow on the trees, but I want to put a little bit of shadow under them to set them down so it doesn't look like they're floating on top of the snow. Oh, I'm going to get some white. Oh, you guys, we're getting there. We're doing really well tonight. I love looking around and seeing you guys paint. Me not being in the studio really hurts. I was there for a little bit having coffee, socially distanced coffee with a friend today. And I miss it. I miss the smell of the studio. I just miss the whole vibe around it. So even though we can't have that, we have this, and this is lovely. I will be happy when the pandemic's over and we can get back in there. But for now, this is lovely. Thank you all for joining me tonight. So once our trees are done, we need to let those dry a little bit. I mean, they might still be a little wet when we put snow on, and that's okay, but we want to give them some time to dry. Let's go over and put some snow on our mountains. I'm going to take, how about 4 minutes? How about 20 till? 20 till. That'll give us 4 minutes. I need to get some clean white. We'll put some snow on our mountains, and then we'll finish up with snow on our trees. Oh, and then we'll put our northern star up there. We'll put our Christmas star up there. Okay, so 4 minutes at 8:40. Jenny, I feel the need to check in and make sure you're breathing. Are you breathing, Jenny? I'm just getting some clean white here. Oh no, did she stop breathing? Oh, Jenny, breathe, girl. It's only paint, right? We're here to have fun. Don't take it all so serious. I can say these things because I'm not there with her. Sorry. Okay, 2 more minutes. Oh, Jenny's fine. Oh, Bix, I didn't see you here, honey. We've got lots of Jennies on tonight, and we love you all. Bix, I'm so happy you hooked up with Tamisha for those kittens. That made my heart so happy. Did you get, I couldn't tell in the picture, did you get the one that I was calling Old Man River? I'm an ant again. The one long-haired one, I was calling him old, and I know it was a girl. Doesn't matter. We don't gender stereotype in this house. I was calling it Old Man River because it had like bags under its eyes. Oh, yeah. Hairballs. So stinking cute. Okay, another minute. So we're going to get ready and put some snow on those mountains. And then some snow on the trees. And we're going to do some Jenny breathing exercises. Oh, okay, 8:40. So for our mountains, let's take one of our smaller brushes, a small filbert or a small flat, with a tiny bit of white paint. We don't want to completely cover them with white. If we were feeling very Bob Ross about the situation, it's all about how much time and effort you want to put into those mountains. But if we were Bob Rossing it, one side of the mountains would be darker because it would be in shadow, and one side would be brighter. So if you want to, with this medium, I just have that medium filbert. I love this guy, medium filbert or medium flat, either one. You can take some white and a little bit of your mountain color. So it was that blue, red, black. I'm just getting this lovely purple color, this real light purple shade. And I'm deciding my bright spot is on the right of my canvas. So the right side of my mountains are going to be brighter, which means the left side of my mountains are going to be in shadow. So I have this lovely gray color. And on the left side of these mountains, I'm just going to pull some little bit of snow, little bit. I'm taking that brush and just kind of laying it down, almost like buttering those mountains. Now with that gray, this is just on the left. And you may not even think it looks gray at this point, but I think when I put that bright white on the right side, you'll really be able to tell the difference. There we go. So that gray on the left, and then bright white on the right. Look at the difference. And I'm laying that brush almost parallel to the canvas. Maybe this is a good angle. Let me show you this angle. I'm setting the top of that brush along the top of the mountain. So I have a firm line on the top, but the bottom is broken. Oh. You can make those mountains look like whatever you want them to look like, right? You can put extra little hills and valleys in there. You can give them as much character as you want. I'm just going back with that bright white. I love to, just like the ground, I love to get that first layer of white on there and then go back and add just a little bit of a second layer of white to get a real bright pop. Because that first layer of white is always a little transparent, but then that second layer is just, woo, really, really bright. Okay. All righty. So I think one of the last things we need to do is put snow on those trees. Oh, Marissa, I just saw your message. So the mountains. So the left side is a little darker. The right side is a little brighter because this is my bright spot, right? This is my light source in my painting, where my light is coming from. So it's shining brighter on the right side of my mountains, leaving the left side in shadows. So start with the shadow side. So white, and then mix in a little bit of your mountain color. The mountain color was blue, red, tiny bit of black. There we go. And I'm taking that smaller brush and I'm going to do the left side first, just laying it down on the top there. Just kind of skittering it along that top left side of each mountain. And once you do that with that shade color, then go back and do that on the right side with white. Those little, it's the little details that really make a difference, right? Okay, snow on the trees. Here we go. So whatever brush you used to make your trees, we're going to use that same brush. So I'm going to clean it out, dry it off, and we're going to paint the trees again, but every other or every third branch, right? You don't want to paint the whole thing white. You want to have the snow land where it would naturally land, right? On the tops of some of the branches. So I really liked making my tree with my big fat brush. If you used a fan brush, use your fan brush. But I'm going to take this with just white. I got a lot of paint on there. And I'm going to hit, oh, maybe this branch and maybe those. And maybe a couple of these right in here. Not all the branches, just some of them. And I will say the more paint, the better. You get that really cool texture. I'm using a lot of paint. There's a lot of paint on that brush. Okay, and make sure you get all 3 trees. Let's see. And this one. Put some snow here at the bottom. And shush down here at the bottom a little. Here we go. I think I'm going to call that done. Oh, that makes me happy. So as we wrap up our paintings, you have all the time in the world. You keep playing, you keep painting. If you would like the video of this painting, please let me know and I will send you the Zoom link because the Zoom link will be ready in about 5 minutes. The YouTube link is my bigger challenge right now. So if you would like to go back and reference the recording, let me know. I'll send it to you. As we finish up tonight, the very last thing an artist does is signs their painting. I got you, Marissa. The very last thing an artist does is signs their painting. So I have my paint pen, again, because I'm really bad at signing with a brush, right? You can sign either on the bottom right, bottom left. You can sign on the back if you want. If you sign on the back, oh, the Christmas star, Jenny. Oh my God, I almost forgot. Okay, let me finish this real quick. I can't believe I forgot. I talked all about it through the whole thing. Thanks, sweets. If you're going to sign on the back, never here, always out here, right? You don't want it to bleed through onto your paintings. So always out here. So I can't sign yet because I'm not done. I'm going to put my Christmas star on there. Okay. So there are a couple ways we can tackle this Christmas star. And I think I'm going to start with my, my medium brush. Let me show you what I'm going to do. And you can practice on your plate and see which way you like better. Okay. So the first way I'm going to show you is with your medium brush. excuse me, but the other end of it. Watch what I'm going to do. Thank you so much, Jenny. I can't believe I almost forgot. Or I did forget. You reminded me. Thank you. So I think I'm going to put it right here because that balances out my trees nicely, right? I don't want to put it over here because then I think my painting feels too heavy there. And I'm not a fan of middle just because I'm not. So I think right here is what I'm feeling. So I'm going to use the end of my brush. I'm getting it in that white paint. So I have white paint on there. I'm going to set it down, right? Give myself a nice dot. And then I'm going to go in that dot and I'm going to like scrape it, like pull down, go back in my dot, scrape up, back to the middle, scrape to the right, back to the middle, scrape left. I think that's a lovely way to do a Christmas star. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can use your brush. You can use your small brush. But I feel like when we use our small brush to paint it on there, it has a tendency to get real big real fast. I think this is an easy way to get a nice, subtle, I mean, it's a big star, but it's a little more subtle than painting a star on there, okay? So again, use one of your smaller brushes. This is that medium filbert brush, but the handle's pretty small. Glob of white paint. I think I'm going to go back and dot that center again because I scraped through it. And then pull out from the center. So scrape up, scrape down, right and left. And where you drag that paint out, there's your star. There he is. Okay, thank you so much, Jenny. I can't believe I forgot. So bad. Okay, so with that, now I think I'm good to sign it. I'm gonna go ahead and sign mine down here. S, blah, blah, blah. A little tick and a 20. And now that it's signed, I'm gonna call it done. Shabam. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and then I'll give you the opportunity to unmute if you want. So if you want to hang in there, give me just a minute. So thank you all so much for joining me for Painting Through the Pandemic with Shauna Sue. I love that. Now that the glare's off of it, that's pretty sweet. It's good. I think it's going to be even better tomorrow in like natural sunlight. To see the natural sunlight hit it. So thank you all so much. Again, no class next Saturday. Gonna take a little holiday break, a little holiday breather. You know, hope springs eternal. I was just gonna say, man, I've had a real hard time with internet, with getting pictures that people send me, but hope springs eternal. Please private message you with your painting to me, and I'm gonna try again to download them and put them together in a compilation to share on social media. So I would really appreciate, yes, if you would either private message the studio or email me. That would be great. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. Thank you all so much. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you all in 2021.